Hey guys, Mr. Champion here. Quick review on the Articles of Confederation. Have a great illustration in front of you. The caption reads, rough sailing ahead. For the Articles of Confederation, it created rough sailing for the central government. Here are some reasons as you look at the waves. There was no power to collect taxes. Therefore, there was no power to raise an army because you couldn't fund an army. No one, again, would work for free. In addition, you had no power to enforce any of the laws that they would come up with because there was no executive branch at this time. There was no president. Because there was no power by the central government, we couldn't enforce treaties. Again, as I said, there was no standing army, or we couldn't raise an army necessary to push Great Britain out of places such as Ohio River Valley. And then lastly, if states had disputes between each other, there was no national court system that could work out those disputes. And so you saw bitter conflict and rivalry between states as they sought to gain greater lands. And so the Articles of Confederation left our country in a volatile situation. And so Section 2 brings us to the Constitutional Convention. Now, at the Constitutional Convention, our country goes under great change, and I think change for the best. And so let's look at our essential question for Section 2. What impact did the Constitutional Convention have on American government? Not just in the late 17th, early 1800s, but also on us today. So in answering this question, there are three things I want you guys to be able to do. First, identify leaders of the Constitutional Convention. We're not going to go over all the leaders. We're just going to go over some key figures that I think you should know. Secondly, explain the main differences between the two rival plans of the new Constitution. As the delegates got together, they came up with ideas that could make our Constitution or our Articles of Confederation better. And so we're going to look at those two plans. And then lastly, describe the compromises the delegates had to reach before the Constitution actually could be signed into existence. But before we do that, I want to just look at a brief video and give you kind of an overview of what took place at the Constitutional Convention. So let's look at these three questions. Now on your notes, I want you to flip it over. You have a blank page on the back of your notes. Write down these three questions, and as you watch the video, I want you to answer these three questions to get you thinking about the Constitutional Convention. What was the purpose of the convention? Give a brief description of who was in attendance at the convention. Not necessarily names, but the type of people. What did they do? What was their social status? Because that's going to be important as we look at some of our primary documents as we analyze the Constitutional Convention. And then lastly, I want you to tell me what did each of these delegates vote and agree on, and why was it significant? So let's look at the Constitutional Convention video.
It is the spring of 1787. The Revolutionary War has been over for only 6 years, and the young United States is still struggling in its infancy. Uprisings, boundary disputes, and the lack of a common vision all plague the newborn country. In an effort to steady this precarious ship, the Confederation Congress calls on states to send delegates to the Grand Convention to begin on May 14th in Philadelphia. The delegates must draft revisions to the Articles of Confederation, which would then be considered by the Congress and approved by the states. Under the terms of the Articles, all 13 states had to agree to any changes. Since the purpose of the convention is just to make recommendations, not everyone is excited about attending. And frankly, some think it's a waste of time. As men from different parts of the country began to travel down dusty, rutted roads on the way to Philadelphia, not all states send delegates. In fact, Rhode Island never even shows up. On May 14th, only 8 delegates, not states, but individual delegates, are present. So they wait. Finally, on May 25th, the necessary quorum of 7 states is achieved. In all, 55 delegates arrive in Philadelphia over the course of the convention. They are all white males, property owners, and the average age is about 44. Some are slaveholders, some had signed the Declaration of Independence, and almost all are well educated. Picture the delegates, James Madison and George Washington among them, sitting in Independence Hall in hot, humid Philadelphia. They're all wearing the dress of the day, frock coats, high collars, and thick pants. They vote to keep their discussions secret to encourage honest debate. But that means the windows are closed, and there is no air conditioning in 1787, not even an electric fan. And they'll sit in that sweltering heat in those heavy clothes for 3 months. Shockingly, they all keep their vow of secrecy. That could never happen today, not even for an hour-long meeting. Someone would share, James Madison thinks he's so smart, keyword, articles are dead, via social media, and the whole thing would be a disaster. But in 1787, there are no leaks, not even a drip that hints at what they are doing. And what they are doing is nothing short of overthrowing the very government that sent them there. Within a few days, with only a 7-state quorum, and only 6 of those states agreeing, a handful of men changed the course of history. They vote to get rid of the Articles of Confederation and write a new, more nationalistic document that becomes our Constitution. The risk is immense. Everyone on the outside assumes they were working on recommended revisions to the Articles. It's an incredible gamble, and even when the convention presents the signed Constitution on September 17th, not all delegates endorse it. The country will argue and debate for 2 more years before the document is adopted by the required 9 out of 13 states. But instead of punishing them for their deception, today we celebrate the wisdom and vision of those men in Philadelphia.
All right, now that you had a chance to see an overview of what happened at the Constitution Convention, go ahead and write down your answers to those 3 questions, and we'll go on to the second installment of Section 2 in a few moments. All right, see you then.